We view life through the eyes of the designer,
who sees things not as they are,
but as what they can become.
Design is where we live.
And where we can always be found.
Design moves us to see the world
from the crystal vantage points of creativity.
Design is the beast, just partially tamed.
Who breaks rules and mocks tradition and rebuilds with inspiration.
We eat, we sleep, we breathe, we design.
That is who we are.
We live design.
We live design.
We live design.
View life through the eyes of the designer.
Who sees things not as they are,
but as what they can become.
Design is where we live.
And where we can always be found.
Design moves us to see the world.
From the crystal vantage points of creativity.
Design is the beast, just partially tamed.
Who breaks rules and mocks tradition and rebuilds with inspiration.
We eat, we sleep, we breathe, we design.
That is who we are.
We live design.
We live design.
We live design.
Hello and good afternoon, everyone. I'm Joy Alampay, Executive Director of Asia Society Philippines, and we'd like to welcome you all to Episode 2, The Journey of Textiles in Southeast Asia, under our signature program, Eyes on Southeast Asia. This three-part series is produced in partnership and collaboration with the SOFA Design Institute under the leadership of Ms. Amina Aranas and Ms. Tina Baron. And of course, we're also honored to collaborate today in this episode with HABI, the Philippine Textile Council, under chairperson Ms. Maribel Ongpin and their president, Ms. Adelaida Lim. Thank you very much, ladies. So Southeast Asia's diversity can be symbolized by many of the region's spectacularly colorful and intricate textiles. In these are reflected histories and heritage that are in many instances linked and tied to one another. We will learn more about Southeast Asia's fabrics and what they teach about the region's peoples and their interwoven lives from our distinguished panel, Dr. Norma Respicio of the UP Arts and Letters, Dr. Mariah Waworuntu, and Ms. Maribel Ongpin. So now let me call on our host for this series, Ms. Carla May Leonor, Chairperson for Interior Design of the SOFA Design Institute. Carla, again, welcome and thank you.
Joy. Thank you so much, Ms. Joy. Good evening, everyone. My name is Carla Leonor. I am the chairperson for Interior Design at SOFA Design Institute. And I'd like to invite you to join us today in this conversation as we explore our rich culture of textiles and its link to our identity as an individual, as part of a community, and as part of a nation in the Southeast Asia region. So let me introduce to you our speakers. So first off, we have Ms. Maribel Ongpin. She is the HABI Philippine Textile Council's chairperson. And also, she's hosting the second ASEAN Traditional Textile Symposium in Manila in 2009. And upon discovering the absence of a national textile society, she then founded HABI. So since then, she has nurtured this council and then guided its growth. She also led the Philippine delegations in subsequent meetings at the Traditional Textile Symposium in Malaysia, in Vietnam, in Thailand, Brunei, and in Indonesia. So as a national leader, Ms. Maribel is connected with various civic groups, non-government organizations, and associations. She writes a weekly column for the national daily newspaper, Manila Times, leads a book club, and even plays tournament-level golf. Mother and grandmother to an accomplished family, she is the widow of former Finance Secretary Jaime Ongpin, and amongst her colleagues, she truly deserves the rank of a wise woman elder. Good evening, Ms. Maribel. Okay, so the next that we have is Miss Siti Maria Waworuntu. So she's a doctor and Secretary General, a Traditional Textile Art Society of the Southeast Asia region. So Maria obtained her PhD in Educational Administration and Policy Studies at the State University of New York. And she also lectured at the University of Indonesia. She's a faculty of Social and Political Sciences and the Anthropology Department. After her retirement, Ms. Maria fully immersed herself into her passion, and that is traditional textiles. Since 2003 until now, she serves on the board of the Himpunan Wastra Prema, an Indonesian association of traditional textiles aficionados. So this is located in Jakarta. Now, from 2003 all the way to 2016, she was the principal editor of the bilingual traditional textile magazine called Journal Wastra. She also served as president of the ASEAN Traditional Textile Arts Community from 2012 to 2017. And now she is the current Secretary General of Traditional Textile Arts Society of Southeast Asia, an accredited entity of the ASEAN. Now, Dr. Maria is a proponent and a co-founder of the ASEAN Traditional Textile Symposium series, and it's organized biannually by different ASEAN member nations. And as a scientist, she has represented Indonesia on various traditional textile forums worldwide. From 2014 to 2016, she was actually part of the Queen Circuit Museum of Textile team, researching the batik collection of King Rama V of Thailand. She has represented the TTASSEA on the first and third International Association of the Study of Silk Road Textiles. Now, I can't wait to introduce you to her. Good evening, Dr. Siti.
Hello, good evening.
Thank you for joining us tonight. And lastly, but not the least, of course, we have Dr. Norma Respicio. She's a professor of art studies, College of Arts and Letters at the University of Philippines, Diliman. Now, Dr. Norma Respicio, again, is, really into her primary fields of specialization, such as history and aesthetics of traditional art forms, with special focus on the textiles of the Philippines and those of Japan as well. Now, she is safeguarding the heritage sites. She's also into the management and documentation of tangible and intangible art. And she has also done in-depth studies on Japanese textile art history and aesthetics over decades in several institutes in Japan, earning prestigious fellowships, including the Japan's foundations. Now, Dr. Respicio earned the Most Outstanding Researchers Award in the Centennial of Philippine Independence Gawad Chancellor's Awards, University of the Philippines in 1998. Now, recent publications from her, of course, included The Journey of 1,000 Shuttles, The Philippines Weave. So this was published by the NCCA and the U.S. Embassy in 2014, and with The Living Treasures of Ilocos Sur as a co-author, which was part of the Sanikwa publication in the Philippines in 2010. And that is just to name a few. And today I'm gonna turn this over to Miss Ongpin so she can start this whole conversation going. We have presentations in store for you, so please stay tuned.
Culture, ways of doing things, ways of adjusting to the environment. It includes the belief system, the spiritual universe that an environment influences people to adapt. Textiles are used for clothing, for protection from the elements, for modesty, for everyday tasks, even like cooking and cleaning, as well as rituals like birth, coming of age, arriving at a role in society, dying. These are all influenced by the physical environment of people. When it comes to clothing, for whatever use, we rely on textiles, which are usually woven from plants or other environmental factors that are available and can be used from the physical surroundings we have. In this way, textiles are expressions of identity, very clear about who the people who make them are, where they come from, and how they live. Life is a succession of adjustments. They can be to physical surroundings, or a diffusion of cultures from somewhere else, or even a gradual transformation of the elements around us. The oldest living traditions of the Philippines have to do with cotton and abaca. This is the oldest textile found in the Philippines. It is a woven abaca fabric from around the late 13th century or early 14th century, found in Banton Island of Romblon province in the central Philippine archipelago. Cotton is a small farm crop in the Philippines, indigenous to almost all of the archipelago and the source of many of our textiles. Cotton and the textiles it was made from were an important export from the Philippines in the early trade days with the Chinese traders and with the Manila galleon to the Americas. We have many variations of cotton textiles made in different Philippine regions. Before the entry of imported textiles in the early 19th century, we had a huge industry in both the north and the south of the archipelago that answered the market demand for woven textiles. As population increased and trade expanded, imported cloth made a dent in that industry, but never killed it. It survived with the new respect for handmade products, a flourishing interest in identity, and its expressions renewed interest has caused an expansion of creative innovations. Fashion designers have led the way, and weavers have responded with new levels of creativity and expertise. Books have been published, fairs have become a welcome and recurring event, and general curiosity and research are fueling the craft. Abaca is another of our materials, very much of an endemic plant, known the world over as distinctly of the Philippines. It is hemp used for rope and thread used for textiles, and now for paper currency, parts of electronic gadgets, automobiles, and anti-erosion materials. There are many distinct ways that abaca is woven and used. In the south of the Philippines, it is a textile called tinalak, whose colors and designs are implemented from the dreams of the weavers, who by tradition come from generations of weavers who dream. In other parts of the Philippines, it's made into home decor, baskets, high fashion accoutrements, and household and personal textiles. Another textile that is uniquely ours is piña, the pineapple fabric. The piña weaving industry came with the introduction of the Spanish red pineapple plant from the Americas at the outset of trade between us. Obviously, we had a weaving tradition in place that ingeniously saw an opportunity for new material using the Spanish red pineapple fiber for weaving. In weaving its fibers and putting into our traditional wear, we made piña our own. Furthermore, its presence as a textile brought ingenious ways to modernize it. We have blended it with cotton, with silk, and even with abaca, aside from its purest form. Together, these piña weaves make for a distinct Filipino identity in this textile. Having understood the meaning and importance of textiles to identity, to practical use, and as expressions of art, governments have learned to support these textiles, which include elements like symbols, embellishments, designs, and decorations that are adapted from the environment they come from. We expect our government, just like the Indonesian government that worked to declare batik as a UNESCO heritage fabric, we expect our government to do the same for piña and abaca. Our regular meetings in the ASEAN Traditional Textile Symposia have given us the shared ideas that we now try to implement to keep our textile traditions alive and well. Thus, the future of textiles will be that of tradition with the space to add, to transform, to innovate, and to modernize. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Ms. Ongpin. It was a wonderful presentation. If I could request for everyone, the entire panel to join in the conversation, maybe you can have like a quick discussion also. There we go. Hi, good evening. It's my honor to be around such wonderful women, and it was a really good presentation. I was really curious about Ms. Ongpin talking about the identity of the Filipinos in the Philippines and how it's injected through our textiles. Would you guys have any insights on how that has been done in the past and how it can be integrated in our current setting now, given that fashion continues to evolve? Anyone can jump in? I think we're a bit frozen. I'd like to get the input of Miss Maria, given that you are now in Bali, wonderful Bali, and these textiles are so it's rich in your culture. I see it everywhere when I visit there. I'd easily fall in love with it. Um, do you have any suggestions of certain applications of these textiles in the Philippine setting with regards to how it has been successful in Bali?
Well, I think you're successful too. And I must say, you have a lot of fibers and textiles that are so beautiful and made into beautiful things. So sometimes I think, oh, why didn't we think of that? But I'm thinking you're doing fine in the Philippines. You're working very hard with all the weavers. You try to market their products and you write books. You're doing great. I think more than we do here. We do good things here, but it's not known to other people. It's not published. But I'm thinking you're fine. You're okay. You're doing great. And I think the future of textiles is handmade. It's going back to nature. It's handmade. So don't worry. The Europeans, the Americans, they will come and buy your textiles, use it for the inside of their beautiful Louis Vuitton bags. And yeah, I'm sure you will be very successful. Yeah.
Thank you, Maria. And I see Miss Lida smiling. Given that I love the idea of the future is handmade, because we do have our handmade crafts or handmade textiles as our, in a way, our unique selling proposition out to the world, right? It's something that differentiates us. Miss Lida, do you have anything to add to what Miss Maria said? You're on mute.
I was saying it's like coming full circle. Before there was interest and there was only handmade. And then there came mechanization, industrialization, and everything, and then that thing for everything being mass produced. But then we must have reached the peak of that. Now we're looking for things that are unique and hand woven, and that's why I'm so excited about what's happening now in the Philippines, because we've been there. We didn't leave, and go through the whole cycle. But we're ready now for this new round of appreciation of handmade products.
Mm-hmm. You're right. Yeah.
I love that idea. There's really that resurgence now. I do see it. And I do see how it's also being modernized by these organizations. Like with our last session, we had Anya, and of course, she's leading with these communities. And I love how it's being normalized. It's becoming part of our everyday lives.
Yes, that's really very exciting. And particularly the fact that younger people are taking it on. We're even seeing that for a while when we first started, we saw that maybe handloom weaving is dying. But as you said, there's this resurgence. And even now, younger people are even taking on the craft. And that is going to be very exciting because then there'll be innovations and creativity, and you don't know what's going to come out. But I'm excited about that.
It is exciting, especially for me. I'm a designer and both an educator as well. And I guess the same with Dr. Norma, because you are in education. And given that, these younger generation, they're getting more involved, do you feel that change in the level of interest?
Yeah, yeah, because textile weaving or being part of the traditional art, no, is being studied, no, studied in tertiary level, tertiary education level. So not just in the high school, in the TLE, they call that TLE, but also in art studies courses and course textile and clothing in college and home economics. So there is now a more critical view, in the study of textiles, not just about the materials, the yarn, the dye stuffs, but also about the designs and the design motifs, their origins or their probably interrelations with other cultures around us. So the meanings and the aesthetics, plus the history, are being studied. So this has made the students, or in the university level, the tertiary level, to be more aware and to have greater critical appreciation of our culture, of textiles in general, especially traditional textiles. But I also, there is this program of the National Commission for Culture and the Arts. They call it the Schools for Living Traditions. It's for in communities with textile weaving tradition or other traditional cultural traditions, traditional art forms, are being taught to the younger ones by master craftsmen or master weavers. So this is very, I think, significant, such that it's very important that the tradition is passed on to the younger generation. But one other thing that I'd like Sana to see, would be the popularization of these traditional art forms or textile weaving as an attire, not just for special occasions, but even for everyday, not just for as accessories or bags, but also for everyday wear, because or not just for uniforms in offices and schools, but sana for everyday, because well, with the influx of so many RTW, I wish we could popularize it, probably with more or cheaper or yarn materials, or with the production of more yarn materials. Maybe there would come a time wherein this could be once again be used for everyday, because formerly, until the war, prior to the war, World War II, or the entry of the Japanese forces in the Philippines, textiles produced by the community were used for everyday. So I wish we could go back to that, or I wish we could once again have such thing.
Thank you, Dr. Norma. I actually enjoyed that conversation. I have so many questions. I'm very passionate about materials and material development. And I would like to get your insight on involving technology in that process. Because when we talk about traditional textiles, the usual reaction of people is that not everything is comfortable, right, for everyday wear. Are you open to, or do you think these local communities are also open to involving technology in that handmade process, perhaps to improve the materials?
Just this morning, we were in a road mapping exercise with the BOST, and that's one of the things that we recommended. That research be done into how to, for instance, piña, how to make that less itchy because that's what it is. And there might be a way if research is done to do that actually. I know that in Thailand, I think it is, they've been able to make their cotton so soft, and I don't know what it is what treatment they give to it. But we should look into that for our other natural fibers, because that's the thing about our natural fibers like piña and abaca. They're not spun, you see, they're knotted together and joined. Um, so that makes the work more tedious. Before you can actually weave it, you have to knot them one by one, end to end, right? Whereas if you were spinning, which cotton allows you to do, it's much faster to produce yarn. And so we have to look into those ways if we want to make our traditional textiles more accessible.
I agree, and also more sustainable in the longer run. Like, so people will really accept it more. Miss Maria, is there any developments in this side of the industry?
Yes. I was thinking of motifs that have been digitalized by students of the university in Bandung. They are very successful. However, people don't say it's batik, just a motif of batik, for instance. But for the weavers in Kalimantan, they also did that, and it made the work for them easier to remember, easier to see, and easier to make it equal, same motifs constantly. Not only one big and one small, but yeah, it was a great help to them. So I think, yeah, I'm really for digitalizing. However, yeah, some people want to stay with the same old ways like before. That's fine, no problem. But also give these, if it's useful to the younger generation, why not? Why not give them a chance and make it, digitalize it, and use it in their work now? So yeah.
I love the openness to it. And just to highlight what you said, there are differences, of course, with respect to traditional weaving. The labeling should be different as well. So it could be just a
Yes,
motif.
yes, and that should be organized, I think, by the government. We have a um, uh, a special department that regulates these things. So you get, if it's real batik tulis, handwritten, hand dyed, then you get a special chop or a special mark on it, and things like that. But yeah, we shouldn't stay in the past. We should go further, I think.
I love that. And I would like to hold you here because I have so many questions. But to give the floor to Dr. Maria for your presentation, we'll take a quick break and then go back again to this panel.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
They might be setting it up.
Right. Would you like me to start?
There we go.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, next please. Well, the origins of weaving tradition in the islands of Southeast Asia. Bellwood, a researcher on the prehistory of the Indo-Malaysian archipelago, proposed that Proto-Austronesians originated from Vietnam. It is believed that these people were born into the Dongson bronze culture. These migrants first settled in Taiwan approximately 4,000 before our current era. Their descendants moved into the Philippines by 3,000 before our current era, and migrated southward into the Indonesian archipelago by 2500 before our current era. Based on linguistic reconstructions and archaeological evidence, prehistoric weaving traditions are believed to have been part of the cultural traditions of these Austronesian migrants. Next, please. Here you see a map of the origins and spread of the Austronesian-speaking people. Way back in North Vietnam, we come from there and all the way to the Philippines, and from there they go on to the Pacific Islands, to the Pacific, south to the Indonesian archipelago, Java, Singapore probably, and the east coast of Sumatra to the west to Madagascar, and also to India, of course. Next, please. It is plausible to speculate that in island Southeast Asia, textiles traveled along the same prehistoric routes. Therefore, we strongly believe that Southeast Asian nations share common roots, as these people have been intermingling for millennia. As such, close relationships among Southeast Asian nations is evident through the textile traditions. The trade in artifacts, as well as the art of weaving in the first millennium, enriched much of Southeast Asian design system with a new vocabulary of similar motifs. Next, please. Here is a small bronze weaver. It's a statue, and it's now in the possession of the National Gallery of Australia. But it was found in Flores, in the east of Indonesia, and was mentioned by Moni Adams in 1970 that it was part of a heirloom of a family heirloom. It is a woman breastfeeding her baby while sitting on a backstrap loom, and it is carbonated to 600 ED. Which means that in the first millennia already, weaving was well known in the archipelago. You know, that's just a guess, but we don't know whether this comes from Vietnam because it's bronze. We don't know, but we just want to prove and expose to you that weaving was already well known in Southeast Asia. Next, please. Yeah. Indonesia is a large archipelago consisting of more than 17,000 islands and more than 350 ethnic groups. Therefore, I would like to present the talk by islands or group of islands based on the textile they produce. So the first one is Sumatra. It's all the way in the west. It's one of the bigger islands. It's called the Island of Gold. It's famous for their songkets and embroidery. The first textile you see is from Aceh. It's on the right. It's called Ija, and it is 4.5 meters long. It's a long silk shawl, which is embellished at both ends with gold thread. It is worn by a West Achenese woman as head and shoulder cover. With this outfit, she also wears black trousers in the style of the Mughal Empire, which means the Turkish Empire, and there seems to be a connection between the Mughals and the Indonesia. Next, please. The second textile is from Tapanuli. It is a ritual shawl, also called ulos. It is made of cotton and used chemical dyes. It is made in the supplementary weft technique, a technique whereby an extra thread is used on top of the basic cloth for embellishment. Ulos plays an important role during rites of life cycles. This sadum ulos has motifs of animals and also letters woven into it to wish the wearer good luck, prosperity, and success. Next, please. The next textile comes from West Sumatra, the Minangkabau. As you might know, the Minangkabau is a matrilineal society. Great esteem is given to the clan mother, or Bundo Kanduang, who holds the clan's possessions such as land property, heritage objects, and the clan's house. This rectangular cloth was made in Pandai Sike, one of the many weaving centers in West Sumatra. The textile is called sarwang balapak, a sarung fully covered with gold thread. It is made of cotton and shows 44 different traditional motifs and vertical bands. Next, please. I also would like to show you the embroidery of this part of Sumatra. These shawls come from the town of Koto Gadang, worn on special occasions such as weddings and other formal parties. Embroidery was introduced in early 19th century by Dutch missionaries who taught young girls at school the art of embroidery. The oldest embroidery school, Amay Setia, still exists and is more than 100 years old. On the East Coast, you will see that Palembang also has embroidery, but influenced by Chinese culture, but evenly beautiful. Next, please. Now we move to the east coast of South Sumatra to Palembang. This rectangular cloth is a songket bintang bakandang, which means a star fenced in stars. In the middle of the cloth is called a kapala or hat of the cloth. Usually it is worn in front. The kapala features isosceles triangles. There are two with two equal legs, also called pucuk rebung or bamboo shoots. This motif is from Hindu Buddhist beliefs. Triangles are also found on dongson drums, and it's believed that these motifs come from that time period. Next, please. The next textile comes also from Palembang, but it's a different type. The left is a songket limar, which is a weft ikat, and combined with hand-embroidered center, the left one. On the right one is a songket janda bereas, meaning a dressed-up widow. It has an empty center field. In Malaysia, it's called songket kosong, meaning an empty field. It is unique. The shawl is worn by a widow who is ready to remarry again. As you can see, that all these songkets display status, position, and wealth. Next, please. The textiles of Lampung and South Sumatra also display wealth and status. The cloth on the right is called tapis chung sarat, which means a skirt, a metaphor used as junk, as a Chinese boat, fully laden with gold thread. Tapis is the technique in the West known as couching. A gold thread is stuck on the cotton cloth and sewn onto the cloth by hand. The cotton cloth in large colored bands are woven in other regions. So the base cloth is woven in other regions, but then it's sent to Lampung, where the artisans tack on or couch on the gold thread. Again, as you see the motifs in triangles. You see the headdress also in the shape of a ship, and they really believe that their ancestors came from Dongson in those boats, in those junks. Next, please. The following cloth is a tampan or ship cloth. It measures 50 times 50 centimeters. It is used as a food cover or fruit wrapper. It's also used as a gift between relatives or used as a place to sit on by the guest of honor. So on the right, you see a ship, a ship from the Dongson drums, copied from Dongson drums. Ships are symbols of transportation for the dead into the hereafter. So it's also believed that ships on tampans are inspired by the Dongson culture in which our ancestors arrived. Images on the ship feature 3 levels of the cosmos. Upper level featuring animals flying in the sky, middle level featuring humans living on earth, and lower level featuring animals living in the sea. Tampons are also used in transition rites to confirm social relations. Example, when a person is promoted to a higher position in society, you give him a gift of a tampan shipcloth. Now we arrive, the next one, please. Now we arrive on the island of Java. It's the home of batik. Batik is, in fact, a painted cloth through the resist dye technique. Although we cannot say with certainty where and when batik was first applied, batik had ancient roots. Batik was found in Egypt, India, China, Africa, and other places. But we strongly believe that whatever its origins, it was in Java that batik developed our court art and later as people art. Secondly, batik became part of Javanese daily life. From the cradle to the grave, one is wrapped in batik. Thirdly, batik has become part of Javanese philosophy and the way of thinking. In 2009, batik was proclaimed Intangible Heritage of Humanity by UNESCO. Yeah. So I hope you will get, the Philippines will also get for your piña. So, next, please. Yeah. The first batik on the right is batik Paku Alaman. It comes from the principalities, the princely court. And as you know, there are Solo and Jogja. Solo is Paku Buwono and Mangkunegara, two royal courts. And in Jogja is Paku Alam, where this plot comes from, and also Hamengkubuwono's court. Yeah. The piece is produced, is called Suryo Mularjo on the right, which means the Lord of Surya, and it has sunflower motifs. And it's produced by the spouse of the current Pakualam ruler. The motif is inspired by illuminations of 18th century manuscripts on the left side that's found in the library of the court. The manuscript honoring Lord Surya is seen on the left here. Philosophy of the pattern is a wish that the wearer has a noble character and is able to find and manage his or her resources well. The next pattern features sunflowers. Next, please. This slide features pictures of the wedding of Crown Prince Paku Alam in 2019. On the left side, you see for the wedding, more than 10 different Suryong Mulyarjos were made, each with a different background for each participating group celebrating the wedding. The bride and groom on the left, as you see, they are clad in batik suryo, which was decorated with gold prada. Gold paper was glued onto the motifs, one by one, very tedious work. Yeah. On the right, you see dancers of the court, and on right lower picture is the courtiers, also using the same batik for this occasion. And on the left side, you see the bride and the groom from behind, because it's better seen from that side. Well, I would like to inform you that in the Krato there is a concept of larangan batiks, which are batiks motifs that are forbidden for commoners to wear. In the 19th century, the rulers, they installed this rule that only the Sultan and his family members can wear larangan batiks. Larangan batiks are eight motifs in total that cannot be worn by commoners. Yeah. And they, when you are invited to the kraton, to the palace, they expect you not to wear one of these eight larangan batiks, just to honor the host, you know. Next, please. Yeah. Um, the whole island of Java is filled with batik centers. Yeah. The main batik centers are Pekalongan, Jogja, Surakarta, Pekalongan, Cirebon, and in the east is the island of Madura. I would like to show you the different influences of culture that came to Java. On the left, you see this blue, beautiful batik sarong. The story goes that Cheng He arrived on the north coast in the 15th century. Chinese princess by the name of Ongpin stayed and brought with her artisans from China, including batik artisans. That was the story. We don't know if this is true, but the blue and white batik that you see here has also Dutch influences, seen from the bunch of flowers or the bouquet of flowers. And these sarongs are used by grieving Chinese grieving women who had lost a loved one. They need to wear this type of color for 2 to 3 years. I don't know how it is in the Philippines or in Malaysia. They're also allowed to wear green and blue. I don't know how it is in the Philippines. I'd be the same. The yeah. Next, on the right side is batik from Lassam, and it represents ceramic tiles with Chinese images. So a very strong culture on the North Coast. Yeah. Next, please. These two are contemporary batiks from Pekalongan. On the left is a batik with wayang figures produced by Dudung Ali Shabana. He presents an exploration of the parang motif. Parang is one of the larangan motifs. The parang, he is exploring it, and where parts of the motif were dissected and placed in different positions on the cloth. Here, the motifs are influenced by Hindu and Buddhist beliefs. On the right is a batik from the workshop of Shahyo. Here, he experiments with the batik with two different colors on two sides. But yesterday, I learned that in the 1920s, this technique was already known. So I have to get back and research more on that. Yeah. Next, please. Next is our island, Bali, the island of colors. The textile is cotton rectangular cloth using the supplementary weft and organic dyes. The motifs show wayang figures and tree of life. These are influences from Hindu Buddhist mythology. It's woven by Ida Ayu Puniari in Cinnamon in the eastern part of Bali. Next, please. We go to East Nusa Tenggara. It's islands east of Bali, and these group of islands are called islands of woven cloth. Here is Salau on the left side, a female tube skirt from East Sumba. Representations of animals in warp ikat. The largest one is on the bottom is a rendition of a rooster, so very stylized. And also, it is warp ikat. It's ikat, as you know, is a technique where they bind the threads with plastic and then dye it, and then release the plastic threads. And then where it is bounded, it is white. It's kept white. It's an embellishment with. It is embellished also with commercial fringes, as you see in the middle, which add more value to the cloth. Next, please. The following is also a lau or tube skirt from a different part of Sumba. It's from East Sumba too, but from a different village. The woman on the left wears a skirt showing ancestral humans with raised hands and a skull tree. In the past, skull trees are placed in front of the warrior's house and display the severed heads of their enemies. So, on top you see small lions, which also is an interpretation of coins used by the Dutch. It's the Dutch lion, although in Sumba there are no lions. Okay, these distinguished women, they use these prominent ladies. They use beautiful combs made out of turtle shell. So next, please. Now we go to West Timor. The whole island of Timor are weavers. Every village has its own style, its own beauty. It's all beautiful woven stuff over there. But I will focus on this particular uh, region of West Timor, the kingdom of Amarasi. It lies about 20 kilometers south of Kupang. The textiles are made by Ibu Mira, who sits on the right, the wife of the Raja Koro, her husband, on the left. The textile is called Tais Mutin, which is a man's blanket. They use it. I see he uses, and you can see a little bit of the motifs. The technique is used is a warp ikat too, using natural dyes. The motif is called Kratdom Faun, a single triangle with 8 leaves. So here you see a double triangle forming a diamond in the middle. Next, please. Yeah. Let's go to the group of islands of Sulawesi and the group islands of Moluccas. On the left, you see kain kofo from Sangir Talaut in North Celebes. It is made of banana fibers. Here we have something in common with our northern neighbors, with the Philippines. But in the past, it was used as room divider or worn as a ritual garment. The art is being revived, but it's not easy as we do not have quality banana fibers, which often have to be imported from Java. So, on the right is a Pori Situtu from West Sulawesi, from the Toraja people, from the region of Kalumpang. It is a weaving used as a shroud to cover the deceased. Next, please. The next textile takes us to the south of Sulawesi, the island of Bira. The left one is an early century, 20th century cloth, was believed to be extinct. But this piece, I was happy to find this piece in the collection of Hudi Suharnoko, a collector. This cotton shows checks and a decorative lower band. It is used 3 times in a person's lifetime. First, as a blanket where a baby is born. Second, to cloak the bride during a marriage ritual. And third, as a shroud to cover the dead. Once a cloth has been used to cover the deceased, the cut ends are hemmed, closed and sewn by hand, and never been used again at somebody else's birth or marriage. On the right is a silk sarong from South Sulawesi called Lipa Sabe. Lipa is sarong, Sabe is silk. The Bugis people rear their own silkworm in Sengkang, sorry. But it's only enough for their own consumption. Sometimes they even need to import the silk from China. It's quite difficult to have a sericulture. They have tried, but they were not always successful. Next, please. Now we go to the Moluccas, the island of Moluccas. In the past, Ambon was famous for the spices. They attracted Portuguese, Spanish, and Dutch traders. The textiles are made of cotton and have dark colors, as you see on the left. It comes from the island of Tanimbar in the southwest of the province. While the one on the right is a newly designed Ambonese cloth decorated with traditional motifs. So it is not easy to for these weavers to market their stuff. Next, please. Our last island is Kalimantan, the island of fibers. First, let me show you the early traditional clothing. It's a vest or sape and the kain buri. It's from the Punan people in West Kalimantan. These vest and skirt are small, 50 times 90 centimeters. In early days, inland people had little access to cloth, and they learned how to make clothing with what was available. So when the Chinese traders came with their cotton cloth on the coast, they sold some of it, and when they arrived inland, there was little left over. They decorated with whatever they could find in nature, such as shells, boar teeth, fibers, stones, etc. Our last, next please. Our last textile is ulap doyo, doyo skirt from Tanjung Isui in East Kalimantan. The Benuak people have lived 12 hours inland by boat from the coast. So they live very far away and they don't have any access to textiles. They make their own. Textiles are made from doyo fibers. It's a plant, and they use the leaves, uh, let the leaves rot and take out the fibers. Uh, it is used, these textiles are used during rituals and during special occasions. Next, please. In closing, although similar in many ways, textiles in each Southeast Asian nations are unique as they evolved along their own traditions, common ideas, and way of life. Traditional textiles, especially in island Southeast Asia, show identity for each individual as they may denote the region of origin of the person. In a diverse society such as Indonesian archipelago, having a clear national identity through traditional textiles is important as it unites all creatures into one group where members of many different groups are all citizens of one nation. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Maria. That was such an engaging presentation.
I hope
The
it's not so
visuals,
long.
no, but the visuals were very, visually arresting. They were beautiful. And that's one of the
Thank you.
questions that I wanted to raise. So, with respect to time, we do need to turn this over to Dr. Norma, but I have a few questions.
Yeah.
While you were presenting, I noticed that, your dyes and your colorants were so rich. These are
Oh, yes.
usually plant
Yeah.
extracts,
Yeah.
natural
Yeah. They go back to natural dyes from trees, tree bark, leaves from all kinds of trees, mangosteen, mango, all kinds of even cassava leaves they use for dyeing. So it's very very sustainable for nature, and it's better for the environment. Yeah. Uh,
Is that an industry in Indonesia that works collaboratively with the textile industry?
Uh, well, if you call it industry, I won't say it's an industry. It is a small industry. It's home industry, you know, small where every person thinks that they can use all kinds of resources from nature. They would use and try and experiment with all these colors. Yeah. People from the coast, for example, they experiment with mollusks from the sea, and they can have purple and red, and it's amazing. It's amazing, but it's still a long way. So, what they can produce is not enough for whole Indonesia. It's only used locally for certain traditional and ritual textiles for use in ritual on ritual occasions. Yeah.
It's so beautiful. And I guess the culture of experimentation really does create that differentiation with, the pigments that you create. It's very unique to your textiles. They're beautiful.
Thank
And you
you.
were you were talking also about earlier using textiles as an identifier, right? And you do have so many islands in Indonesia, but
Yeah.
you notice in your presentation there are labels attached to them that's correlated to textiles. Like an island is for us, but for this batik, right? Is that a globally recognized in tourism?
Well, it's recognized among textilians here in my community, in my with friends. We know that Java is the home of batik. Now you have batik everywhere, but originally it came from Java. Yeah, and all the gold textiles were gold threaded textiles where they come from Sumatra because it was the island of gold. Swarna Dwipa it's the land of gold in an earlier prehistoric times. Yeah, so yeah, we try to give a label to the islands because we have so many, so it's so hard to choose, and yeah, you can choose the same one every time over and over again. But I try to present to you textiles that has never been seen before. For instance, textiles that have died out or textiles that come from like early last century. So yeah, there are too many textiles to show to you one by one. Too much.
I think it's a beautiful way of communicating to the world, what Indonesia can offer. What are your thoughts here, Miss Lyda or Miss Norma? I think it's a nice way also of using that same approach to our islands. Maybe name, our islands connected to our textiles.
Mm.
You're on mute, Miss Norma. You're still mute.
There.
There.
This way of putting it is exactly what we need to do in the Philippines as well. We're many islands, and each island is different from the other, but still we're one nation and one country. And for us, the thing is not to be the same as everybody, but to be able to include everybody's diversity. So we have that same situation with Indonesia.
Yes, we have much in common. Yeah.
That would be really nice. And again, I think it's a good way also of building these communities focused on a specific craft, right? Or developing like a textile.
Yes, and everybody has an identity and which they are very proud of. Although we're all one in one nation, but with different textiles and different identities. It's amazing how these 17,000 islands can be one nation with so many ethnic groups, and it's also the same with you in the Philippines. Yeah, you have a lot of ethnic groups, a lot of languages, a lot of textiles. So yeah, everybody is, but still you're one big nation. Yeah.
That's right. Well, thank you so much, Dr. Maria, again for your presentation. I'm going to turn the stage over to Dr. Norma's presentation.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I've been assigned to talk about the design techniques in Philippine textiles. So I'll be presenting now the design techniques in Philippine textile weaving. So what we have in here is continuous supplementary weft design technique, and it's I'm referring to this photograph on this first slide. It's you could see what you would call a rice mortar, and it's produced through the pinilian or continuous supplementary weft design technique. And this is produced by the Itneg in Abra. Okay, so yeah. Yeah. I'll go to the next slide. Okay, so the Philippines is made up of so many islands, just like Indonesia has more than 3 times that of Philippine islands. So we have in here, and we have so many there are no less than 100 ethno-linguistic groups in the Philippines. And from this, there would be something like 85 major ethno-linguistic groups in the Philippines, meaning these 85 are the big groups, no? And from these 85, there are 26 identified textile weaving communities, no? Meaning, well, in this particular slide, no, I failed to include in here the textile weaving communities of Iloilo, textile weaving communities of Cavite and Batangas, and textile weaving communities of Antique. So, but anyway, from this slide, one can see that there are various designs and design techniques employed or practiced by these various textile weaving cultures in the Philippines. Then there are also in the Philippines, no, we make use of a variety of yarn materials in the making of textiles. So you have cotton, you have bark fibers, you have the rami, or we have the rami, yes. Then we have the piña, of course, the banana or the abaca fibers, no? Which also, there's so many types of abaca, and the banana is just one type, no? Such that there are fibers from the banana and the abaca that are so fine, no? And these are this would be produced or woven into sinamay, what you call the sinamay, very fine banana fiber, maybe a little bit rough, no? More maybe rough version of the piña, probably, let's say. Then we have the silk. So we have sericulture in Luzon, in the Visayas, in Iloilo, and also in Mindanao. Of course, dye stuffs, these are another important material in the production of textile weaving, especially for ikat. No? So we have the indigofera tinctura, then we have the sapan, which is indigofera tinctura would produce indigo or blue, no, dark blue. The more you submerge or submerge the yarn into this, or the longer the fermentation of the indigo, the darker would be the indigo. But and also the more you would soak the yarn in the indigo, the darker the yarn produced. No? Then sakpan would be it's a kind of tree, no? And the bark is used to produce red. Then the curcuma longa or the yellow ginger, wild ginger, would of course bring out yellow. Then also from the on the upper right picture, you have the mud. This is mud dyeing is practiced not just by the Ifugao, but also by Maguindanawans and also by areas in Maguindanawan and Antique also. So the mud dye would make the colors more vivid, especially the black. Then we have various other leaf or plant dye stuffs like the mayana and the guava. The guava would bring out brown, of course. Then you have the morinda for red, another for red color. This is the traditional dye stuffs in Mindanao, no? Especially the lumad culture, the lumad groups. No? Then you have the Jusicorus leaves, fruits, and stem. No? This bring out black, no? Black color. So I tried to come up with this map, no? With these colors representing the particular dye stuff in practiced or used in those areas, textile weaving cultures. Now, first design technique, of course, would be plain weaving. Yeah, it's so easy to understand plain weaving because in the production of textiles, you have the warp, which is the long thread, no? Long yarn, no? While you have, and then you have the weft, which it's a shorter one, which would cross the warp, no? So just by employing various colors on plain ground, no, for various colors of warp in between plain white ground, one can come up with stripes. Huh? And then, so you have red, black, red, yellow, and black. No? This is very popular. This very popular design for blankets in the Ilocos. Then on the right side, you have finer stripes, no? And plaids. No? The fine stripe textile here is sinamay, and it's produced by Aklanon. No? While the other one, no, it's black. It's plaid, no? Plaid an indigo colored ground. No? So this one is produced not just in Ilocos but also in Antique. Then below you would have a more a brighter color composition, no? Producing plaids, no? Or checks. No? This would be what you call plain weaving design technique. Then a kind of, or a variation, no? A special kind of plain weave is the binakul. No? Both the warp and weft yarns consist of two hues. No? You have the warp, you see, it consists of two hues, usually a dark one like black or dark blue or dark green, and then another yarn would be, warp yarn would be white, no? Or usually white. No? Then the weft is also made up of double strands and double hued weft. No? Something that is white and the other one would be black. No? So aside from this double strand warp and weft yarn, there would still be a principal weft, which is usually white, that would be used in the production of this binakul. No? So the warp yarns are arranged in such a way that when the weft yarns interlock with the warp yarns, no, the positive and negative forms, or white and black, or white and green, white and red, no? White and blue, no? Interlock with the warp yarns. No? the positive and negative forms of squares and rectangles in graduated sizes are formed, no? Such that the resulting design pattern is an unprecedented vertical design in textile art. As you could see the interplay of expressive elements of positive and negative forms, no? Creating geometric patterns that appear in perpetual movement at varying depths of field. As you can see in here, in the right picture, it's something like a depiction of the whirlwind, while on the left side, lower left side, it's a depiction of the whirlwind also, but seen or depicted in its side view pattern. The one on the center is also binakul, and it's a depiction of the cat's paw print. No? While the other one here on the upper left is a depiction of double petaled flower. This is what you call the binakul technique. Then this is another design technique. It is made up of what we call the multi-headal weave. No? Meaning, when you say multi-headal, it makes use of several headals. That means the work are so many, so many. And such that the produced textile would be somewhat thick. No? But these warp yarns are inserted in the headals at varying points, no, to come up with textural compositions on the surface. No? As what you could see in the lower left, no? This is a depiction of a root, some kind of a root crop, no? Which they call kinarkarot in the local term. No? It's a root crop. No? And the other one here on the left side is what they call, you could see that it's very textural on the surface. The design somewhat are very textural, and they seem to come out on the surface, no? And the same thing can be said on the upper right design. No? The lines there are ridge lines, no? And these are produced through the multi-headal design technique. And this is another multi-headal design technique. By the way, the previous designs are from Luzon, no? Especially in the north, no? While these ones are design techniques also in the multi-headal design technique of the south. No? So you could see these designs like triangles and eye-like designs, or the eye-like designs, or these are all produced through the multi-headal, and the designs are so textural. They went such that when you touch the surface of the cloth, no, you could feel, no, that they seem to be in relief, no, in relief. So this can be produced either in the backstrap loom, and in the pedal frame loom. No? These ones here are produced in the pedal frame loom, while these ones are produced in the backstrap. Then you have also what we call the continuous supplementary weft. No? The designs are produced by a supplementary weft. No? The The common term for the production of this type of textile is known as pinilian, no? Pinilian, meaning there are selected part of the warp that are raised, and then what is inserted as weft are supplementary weft to come up with designs like this one's Ligi Wadagan. It's a depiction of the river and mountains, no? Plus a kind of flower at the center, and the double-headed bird and a human figure on both sides. No? So actually, the designs here somewhat narrate, no, the epic of the Itneg titled Ligi Wadagan, or the Dulimaman epic, and Ligi Wadagan is the main hero of that epic. So the one on the upper right would depict, no, a man astride a horse, followed by a pony. So these are all produced through the use of through this pinilian supplementary weft. In the pinilian supplementary weft design technique, there are design sticks that are inserted in between the weft yarns. No? Parang these are the ones that would dictate the design. No? So the design sticks are like a kind of programming when you have the computer or when you use the computer. So instead, so you have in here something like a manual type of programming. No? So design sticks are inserted in between the weft yarns, selected weft yarns, and before one can insert the supplementary weft, one has to raise every now and then each of these design sticks to come up with this continuous supplementary weft. Then another design technique is the pinilian or suksuk. No? It's also it's inlaid supplementary weft. No? The weaver comes up with these designs using also pre-programmed design sticks inserted in between the warp yarns. No? Then while raising one design stick, the weaver would use her hand, no, the right hand, to insert the design yarn, no, and come up with these designs that are scattered, no, on the whole textile, no, scattered design weave. No? So they are inlaid as if the weaver is doing embroidery while weaving. No? And the designs are dictated by the design sticks that are inserted in between the warp yarns. No? Okay, so when you raise the design sticks, some part of the warp yarns are raised, and that's where the weaver would insert the design yarn. Okay, like embroidery. Okay, so these are all inlaid supplementary weft. The one on the right is aklanon. No? It's very fine pinya, and you have peony flowers as design subject in this pinya textile. So one can have various colors, no? In suksuk, no? Just like what you see in here, the peony flower, there is a gradation of colors here, orange one, and the peony flower. And then in this itneg blanket, it's inlaid supplementary weft also. And here there's a depiction of the leaves of the areca palm leaves. And at the very center, those diamond forms would be a depiction of the areca fruit, no? Or the bunga. And then the yakan headcloth is also done in the some kind of inlaid supplementary weft, but quite different from their tapestry weave. This one is done in the inlaid supplementary weft design technique, yakan cloth. These are also inlaid supplementary weft. The one on the right is a bontok wrap around skirt, no? And at the very center, lower center, you have an X design, big X representing the rice mortar. But every bit of it is made up of diamond forms. Diamond forms, every bit of that X form is made up of diamond forms, which would then represent the palay grains or the rice grains. So this particular textile of the bontok and kangkanay is used only by the upper class, meaning those who have surplus rice production. Then also on this on the left side, it's done in inlaid supplementary weft. Again, it's used only by the kangkanay and bontok upper class, no? Because as you can see, those diamond forms will be representing palay grains, and the X forms in between is a representation of the rice mortar. So again, this is very much expressive of the surplus rice producing class in bontok and kangkanay society. The ground weave on this left picture is done in the what we said a while ago as multi-headal design technique. The ground weave, diamond forms, no? The ground weave, the blue ground weave, is produced in the multi-headal technique. But the designs that are red, yellow, all of those are done in the suksuk or inlaid supplementary weft. Okay, I think I am sorry. Yeah. So another one is this continuous supplementary weft, no? So you had something like the continuous, which is the pinilian. This one is discontinuous, no? So it's similar to suksok. It's also suksok, no? And one can come up with the kinarkarayan. For Ilocano, kinarkarayan means rivers, no? And mountains, and in between we have great designs, no? Obviously, this would be the grape design was introduced by the Western colonizers, no? And then on the left side, you have the Yakan Taotie mask design. It's Taotie is something like Chinese dragon, the face of the dragon, no? So this is produced through the discontinuous supplementary weft design. Yakans are the people of Basilan. Then another discontinuous supplementary weft, no? Wherein the weaver would be as if the weaver would be doing embroidery while weaving. No? So you have the sari manok designed by the Maranao, the tree of life, topped by a sari manok, no? And above this is a wind design, no? Wind design. So one can come up with the discontinuous supplementary weft, no? Design technique. One can come up with one can use, no? Several colors, no? Because you are something like inserting the design weft using your fingers, no? So as if you are doing embroidery while weaving, so that you can make use of various colors per area of the design. Then on the left, on the right, you have the Ilocano bird Karurayan, recalling the pet bird of the hero lamang in the Ilocano epic. No, you know that in the Ilocano epic there is this bird, no, which had a yellow color. No, that one is very somewhat like supernatural bird, and they call that the Karurayan. It was the pet um, fowl or bird in the Ilocano epic. So this is also produced through the discontinuous suksok supplementary weft. Then we have the tapestry weave of the tausug. The tausug are those in Sulu. No? Sulu. And they produced this very intricate square cloth, which the men traditionally use this as their head cloth, and also as their shoulder cloth, and also as a band or waistband. No, and it's produced through the tapestry weave. There are no less than 7 yarns, colors, no, that are inserted at every centimeter area or every millimeter area of this weave, no, and it is every centimeter weave. There is every centimeter area, the weaver would make use of a particular yarn, and then another millimeter area, another yarn, to come up with this highly symmetrical, highly balanced and symmetrical composition of the pisiabit of the tausug in Sulu area. These are other designs of the pisiabit by the tausug in Sulu. And the very center of this design is something like a triangle, kind of the very center is like diamond form, no? And this is said to represent the Bud, or the mountain, no? The sacred mountain in Islamic belief culture. And it is surrounded by elements like trees or plants and fishes. No? So there is in here a integration of the sacred element and the elements that we usually see in the natural surroundings, like fish, flowers, and the surroundings, and stars also, and the surroundings. But at the very center is the Bud, or the sacred mountain. Then ikat, no? Ikat is another technique, no? This is a Bahasa word, no? Ikat, no? So there are 2 types. There are what they call the warp ikat, single warp ikat, or single weft ikat, and there is also the double ikat, no? Wherein the warp, you have both warp and weft, no? Coming up with that design forms, no? But in the Philippines, we mainly practice single ikat, usually warp tie-dyed ikat. In Ifugao, they call that binudbudan, no? And they come up with highly both objective or representational, like the design forms like house, coconut tree, pigs, or swine, and then crocodile, rice terraces, and other ritual implements all around. Then below it is something like non-representational or non-objective designs, also done in the ikat technique. No? The other picture here on the left, you could see the weaver trying to scoop out from the rice terraces some materials for mud dyeing. No? Mud dyeing. The mud in here is very rich in iron, and that's why they use that in mud dyeing to make the colors darker, like the dark black, and more vivid. And then also, this is also warp tie-dye or ikat, warp ikat, used by or produced by the Ifugao. And the materials used here to come up with that red orange or kunig or yellow ginger. Then you add the lime, and then you come up with that red orange. What is depicted here are representational or objective forms, no? Like a lizard and butterflies and houses, no? Butterflies, lizards. Another one, also ikat. Yeah, you have in Ifugao, you have the crocodiles, no? Yeah. And then, of course, I just wish to show you this one. The one on the left, it's Leues Pinangurawan. It's a ritual cloth produced by the Ilocanos, and it's done in tie and dye technique. It's some kind of it's a burial or ritual cloth, Kankanay. It's you have in there the figure of the human figure and the boat. No? So since this is used in burial, we have that belief. It expresses somehow our beliefs that the soul of the departed goes to the next world using the boat as the vehicle. No? So and traversing this body of water, no? Represented by those horizontal lines or vertical lines. I'm sorry. Then you have the Maranao, Maguindanao, ikat, no? Again, it's beautiful design representing flowers and other elements. So just to show you very fast the production process, but maybe in Baka ikat production, no? This is particularly in the Tiboli area. Then there's the dyeing among the Tibolis. Then Bagobo ikat, no? Using banana or abaca fibers. No? Then you have the Tiboli tinalak, that is it's warp tie-dye of the Tiboli, no? Depicting the phoenix, no? The phoenix, and then the Mandaya, Dagmay, also Abaca, warp, tie-dye, ikat, depicting human figures and crocodile, and also almost all over Mindanao, they make use of Abaca and the ikat as the technique, no? So these are various Abaca textiles among Mindanao groups, the Bilaan, the Higaunon, and the Subanon.
Hi, Dr. Norma.
Yes, this is the last, I think. Can I just, yeah. And just the Pilangi, it's another design technique. They have the already woven cloth, and then they tie small portions of it, no? The one on the upper left, small portions of it, and then they submerge the cloth into the dye. And then after that, they will remove the tied areas to come up with those circular forms. No? While the tritic is actually a technique wherein you have the woven cloth, no? Of Abaca woven cloth, and then they embroider on it. No? After that, they submerge that embroidered cloth, Abaca cloth, into the dye, and after that, they will remove, no? The embroidery to come up with those designs. So I think that's it. No? Philippine textile art is a deeply rooted tradition, an intangible cultural heritage practiced almost solely by women. It is resilient even in the midst of obtrusively exploitative economic policies imposed by Western cultures from the 15th century, most especially from the past century. But the struggle to assert the traditions provides greater dynamism to the art and to Philippine culture as a whole. It is a gentle power wielded by women. And another conclusion I would like to state that the democratic enjoyment of resources and economic produce generate exuberant and dynamic cultures. So I think it's important. It has to be democratic enjoyment of resources. Then tangible and intangible creative endeavors are not petrified, but are continuously evolving in forms, designs, technology, and significations. Yet their very essence remain steadfastly definitive of particularities of the people. Then the dynamism and intensity of cultural traditions are the barometers of healthy and economically progressive communities. The more dynamic, the more intense the cultural traditions, the more progressive, economically progressive would be the communities. So likewise, economically healthy and progressive communities are indicators of the dynamisms of their cultural traditions, particularly intangible cultural heritage domains. So I think that's it. No? And thank you for bearing up with me with this many slides that I presented.
Thank you so much, Mr. Norma. It was really informative. I learned a lot. I even saw some patterns that I've never seen before. And I took note of several ones that I would consider my favorite, like the Ligi Wadagan.
Ligi Wadagan, okay. Yeah.
And the Aklanon Suksok and the Pisyabit. They're so
yeah, yes. So so
and
intricate.
Yeah, it's so intricate. And I apologize for interrupting you earlier, but we are getting a few questions. One here is by Jaika. It disappeared. Okay, so she said she's a big fan of traditional clothes, and she can't wait to travel around the Philippines to wear these traditional clothing and also learn about their history as well.
Yes.
And connecting this to what you were mentioning earlier, it's really forward thinking. And I like that it's really, optimistic about the future. There's a question here about copying of heirloom weaves. So, how do you think, in your opinion, can we protect our weavers from these unscrupulous fake China-made textiles?
Pardon? The China-made textiles?
Yes. I earlier we were talking about the
just a minute. Excuse me, can I just try to fix my screen so I can have a screen sharing? Just a minute.
No problem. Maybe I can throw this question to Miss Lida and Miss Mariah. We were talking about China-made textiles, and earlier we were saying it's really the handmade component that makes ours unique. But we can't really stop also them from copying us, or can we?
Pardon?
Can you
I just want to fix my screen so that I can see members.
Yeah,
okay, thank you. You're saying that there are textiles designs that are being copied, no? By China, you mean?
Yes.
Did you say China? Like, for example, I haven't seen actually traditional textiles, Philippine traditional textiles copied by China. I haven't seen. Like what? Ma'am Lida, yes. I'm not very familiar with Chinese.
There was an incident recently here in Baguio where we found some textiles that came from China, and they were direct copies of Kalinga and also Ifugao textiles. The thing about it is it wasn't even woven, it was printed.
Printed, yeah.
So they just copied the design and then printed it. And then sold it very, very cheaply. So what happens there is our weavers who produce handloom textiles are at a complete loss because this cheap material that's being brought in from China is like 1/3 the price of something that's hand woven.
Yeah, I think that would be a question of. That's why I wish there would be a kind of mechanism about intellectual property rights in these creative productions by communities. So I don't know, but maybe still it's very important whenever we come up with these productions by the textile weaving communities. I think it's important to have all those labels so that. At least the person buying them would be would have the knowledge about what is this design, what is that and that, and through this and who is the weaver, the materials used, no, the design and the meaning of the design, such that if you compare that to the China made, it's somewhat maybe the weaver will be able to, or the buyer, the consumer will be able to choose, no, which one do you like better. I mean, would you like the quality and the one produced by the community, or is it machine made that you like to? But I think it's more of a problem of intellectual property rights and the designs that were duplicated through machines by China. Printed pa nga, no? So it's so sad.
Yeah, but I agree with that. It is the role also of the IPO to help us, right? But aside from that, I think with education, we really have a lot to give, because if we do educate people on what is quality and what is not, you know, what is valuable and what is like a copy, right? There's so much
Yes.
more to that
Yes.
handmade craft that's imbued with culture and tradition.
And of course, if it's printed, I mean, the colors might easily fade, you know. And if the yarn is not that the material that we usually use in traditional production, it would, I mean, the quality would be really be different. The durability even.
Before we close, and also maybe before I ask the last round of questions, I wanted to quote something from your presentation. You did mention the dynamism and intensity of cultural traditions are the barometers of healthy and economically progressive communities. And given that we are from different parts, you know, of the Southeast Asia region, what do you think is something that we can do together to, in a way, really push for the the normalization of the use of our textiles is really part of our everyday lives. Like, for example, in Bali, I would see, you know, everyday people wearing, you know, batik clothes. So, what do you think can we do collectively to
Yeah,
push
but
more?
done in the traditional way, not in the printed way, maybe. I think Ma'am Maria has started this already. I mean, invigorating the production of traditional textiles through the ASEAN Textile Conference that she started it in something like 2000, year 2000, Ma'am Maria? Year 2000?
2005. You were one of our speakers. You were the first speaker from Philippines.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. So I attended the first one in Jakarta.
Yes.
But I didn't join anymore the Bali trip, no.
Yes.
I wish I joined that. But I think that's very important because we can have exchange on what's going on in our region, and also not just it's not just reading papers, but we will have also a display of the textiles by various regions in Southeast Asia. So we get to see the ongoing design techniques and the designs, no? And one can also purchase if you like. So I think that's very important. These exchanges, but I wish we had more possibilities of exchanges, not just among academics or people who
Also weavers.
but also the weavers, no? The weavers, the dyers and the weavers, and probably even the makers of looms, no? You know, we have various materials or parts of the loom that it's getting rare because a lot of the makers of this have become very old, no? And the tradition has not been passed on. So I think more of this learning together and exchanges are very important, I think. No? And I'm so thankful that we came up with this, no? And we got to hear Ma'am Maria's presentation and Ma'am Rector Ongpin's presentation. So very important. I learned a lot. No? I learned a lot.
I learned a lot too, and I found that there's so many similarities of textile terms in your language and in my language. It's the same, like we say pelangui, we say pelangi. Yeah.
Pelangi. Oh.
It's the same.
The same. Oh my God. So it's just one whole culture, no? Yes, we come from Austronesian, what they call Austronesian.
Yeah.
Culture, yes. So I'm so glad, yes.
I did see Miss Maria fervently taking down notes earlier while you were presenting.
Yeah. But I think this problem with cheap Chinese production of textiles is everywhere. They try to also to give machines, textile machines, and silk to, for instance, Cambodia for free, but they have to buy the silk from China. So it's all a whole strategy of trade and consumption and whatever. But I hope that maybe there must be a solution to this. That I think what you said earlier, Carla, is that it's education. Educate our people and respect our own traditions, our own textiles, and do not want to wear or use motifs made by other people very cheaply and very, not according to the rules, the pakam, the rules of what we use in weaving. So I think that's very important as education. Educate our people.
I agree.
And I think also, may I add, and I think that by educating people, the people would know the meanings of those designs. And there are, because you see, there are textiles and designs that are only for rituals, no? Certain events, no, in the life of people. And so I think it's very important. You cannot just use this, like for example, the ritual cloth of the bontok and kankanay, wherein you have the men and the boat design. No, that is only for the burial. So this cannot be used in other.
So educate also how to wear it correctly as a sarong or a cloth. Sometimes they wear it totally wrong, and they make what we have is pleats on front in the Javanese. We make small pleats of like 3 centimeters wide, but sometimes there came a lady with pleats like 10 centimeters wide, and she said, "Oh, this is something new." I said, "No, this is totally wrong. It's for men. The men wear 10 centimeters wide. We wear 3 centimeters only." So they don't know, because they don't know. They just think it's a new finding in fashion or something like that. So we have to educate our people, our younger people.
I'm hoping that these kinds of conversations will really spark, the intention to make this a full-blown, let's say, course, because it does protect and prevent also cultural misappropriation, right? And that entails, that ends up protecting also the entire industry and also our culture. So definitely education is there. And this is also one of the reasons why we wanted to push for these conversations. We wanted also to promote education about, Filipino branding and identity and all of the things that are ingrained in that, and that involves textiles. So before closing, Ms. Lyda, do you want to add on to our conversation?
No, I think everything's been said and much better than I could say.
Can I just ask for? I did ask this last session. I was asking the panel if they had the wish list. Of course, you guys, you ladies have been really bearing our flag and have been driving the way for all of this to happen now. Now, turning this over to a new generation, a younger generation that has been gaining a lot of interest, in our textiles. Do you have any wish list, or do you have any call to action requests for them?
Yeah, for me it is. I
I
would
would like
like
to
to.
say that
Okay.
Let's go for it.
Yeah.
Miss Maria. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So I wish I could see younger people replacing us, because there is enough. But it's very difficult. I had a conversation with a younger person, and I said, "Why don't you want to help?" Oh, no, no, they have a totally different mindset, a totally different way of thinking. So maybe what I should do is I must step back and just leave it as it is, and then they find out. Oh, if they have questions, they can come to me. But if I say it has to be like this, no, they will not listen. They will not listen. Their own, they have their own approach. So I think, yeah, maybe we are old fashioned. I am old fashioned, and they don't like that. They want to have their own ways of doing things. So yeah, it's difficult. It's difficult, to look for somebody who's really serious in replacing the older generation. It's very hard.
I
I
think
don't
it's
know if we have the
mentorship.
same problem in the Philippines.
Maybe it's mentorship that they need. Really, that guided walk through the entire,
Well, they can
history.
come for guidance, but they must come to us, because if we tell them how to do it, they don't accept it, and they don't want to do it. It's very sad, but I don't. This is what I experience. I might be wrong, and maybe my approach was wrong, but yeah, I don't know how it's in the Philippines.
Dr. Norma, do you have
Yeah, I agree to what Ma'am Maria said. No? I wish that there would be more of this younger generation really practicing the production of textile weaving and using them. No? But I think there is, Ma'am Maria, in the Philippines, it seems like it's somewhat uh, a view to the future is bright. I think I'm
Not
more
afraid of
positive.
that.
As you can see, you have this Southeast Asia group that is the one that is hosting us now, and they are all young people. I think this is a good sign, no? Very good sign. I but as I said, no, I, I really wish a greater flourishing of traditional textile production and use of traditional textile. But it should go on. We can only do that if the economy of the country is also good. I think
Yeah,
it's important. So
yeah.
there has to be government support in this, and I wish.
I know, I know.
Yes, yes.
Yes. Mhm.
the first session we had Senator Lauren Legarda, and she had a lot of projects in the past and even up to now that pushes for the growth of this industry and the protection also of this industry. So we're hoping more of her will surface up and push for this economic growth so we can also support our textile industry, right? Okay, how about your wish list, Ms. Norma, for the younger generation? What's
Wish.
your request?
I think I
Yeah.
already mentioned, no? And I think they have to be involved in economic production, not just they have to work, no? Yeah, they have to know how to work, no? By working and knowing how to work, and at the same time, probably they can also be attracted to also produce, no? The in the loom, no? This textile
It
waves.
was
Because
mentioned earlier.
by involving oneself in economic production, somehow they would imbibe and they would imbibe and they would enrich the traditional culture of the community. If they are not into the, if they are not involved in economic production, parang they would be somewhat detached from what is the real world. You know? So I think it's important for the younger ones to know how to work, how to be involved in economic production, and probably later and into the production of textiles themselves.
That was a really good
Using
point.
that, yeah.
Because with trying out, how it's done and how it's, painstakingly developed, there's ownership over it, right? Once they get to try it out. So then they get more involved, like you mentioned. Okay, you did mention, it was mentioned also earlier that there are opportunities for students to learn these. And I think Habi is also leading the way, right? To really expose these opportunities to learn directly from craftsmen. Miss Lida, would you care to share this direction?
Well, recently we produced for the first time a documentary on weaving in Panay Island. So they have different traditions in that one island, and I thought that that was something, a very interesting exercise, because it was a way of reaching younger people. We know that younger people are not readers. Or they'd rather look at their screens and see something moving there, maybe an animation or film. And like even all of our discussions here, I mean, we could lose them, even no matter how interesting it is to us. I don't know if we're reaching them. But when we did that documentary, the response to it was very interesting and exciting, because they were seeing it. The only thing lacking there is they weren't actually hands-on. But that's not possible because of the pandemic, right? So that's one avenue that we tried in communicating with the young. And that is what I think we have to be doing. It's, we say education and stuff like that, but are we really reaching them? Is my question. Because once we like catch their interest, for instance, then it just goes on. They will have on their own. They would take it on, that sort of thing. But having been young at some point, I realized that I never liked being told what to do. But if I discovered something by myself, so you put things there and show people that they can discover it, then maybe I'll be interested. But to be told, do this and do that, when I was young, I never wanted to be told.
That is a totally good point. If they get involved, it's a willing endeavor. That is so true. So the key is to be willing to get involved, to get educated, to communicate, and all, like what we're doing now, and bringing this to a digital platform. We're making this knowledge available, which people wouldn't really usually have access to, like, especially with Dr. Maria here. You're outside of the Philippines, so we're quite lucky. It's a silver lining in this pandemic that we're able to get in touch with each other, and hopefully this snowballs.
Yeah. I think how to reach young people is through your school, your institution of design. Schools of design, schools of art, schools of culture. These people are maybe the future generation that will take on from us.
Yeah.
So I think I'm very optimistic for that.
Maria, you mentioned something earlier about digitizing designs.
Yes.
I think this is something that we should undertake in the Philippines as well.
Yes.
If we could have it in an app, let's say, so that it's accessible to that what do you call it? That digital generation, or the digital natives. Then we might spark some interest. So let's consider that. Digitizing the designs.
Yes.
I love that we having this conversation about tradition and culture and then apps.
Yes. I think that would be one way by which to attract the young. to join and be involved through the digitization of designs.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think it's
Well,
very important.
right. You never know.
Yeah, next
For
project
instance,
perhaps in collaboration with Habi and Sofa Design Institute. That could be
yeah, you
nice.
can do it.
We might even create a game, I don't know, but maybe that's even old-fashioned already by now. The way technology is changing in leaps and bounds. But that was one thing that caught my attention. I said, well, maybe if it becomes a kind of a computer game, then it might gain some ground among the youth.
Yeah, even just maybe like a game of weaving, weft and warp. You can create patterns. Engaging already. I love that there's so many ideas from this group, but I do apologize that we have to end. We
Yes.
actually went over time a bit. If it were just me, I would like converse with you ladies for lengths of hours. But thank you so much. It was my pleasure to be amongst you, Dr. Maria and Dr. Norma, and of course, Miss Lida.
Yeah,
We
thank
were
you.
we learned so much, and I hope we can continue on this conversation even outside of this series. So
Yeah.
again, thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you too.
Carla.
Aida, thank you also.
Ma'am
Norma,
Maria,
thank you.
how is
Carla,
Wastra
thank
Prima?
you.
How is Wastra Prima, ma'am?